Hello, welcome back. It is week 189 on Out on That Line podcast. That rhymed. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex, as always. Alex, how are you this week?
Jeff, I tell you what, boss makes $1, I make a dime, so I crank my hog on company time, baby. Cranking hog or hogly cranking? That's the question around here, around these parts this week. Shooey, Jeff, I'm feeling Texas AF in a way I haven't since I've done gone and lived there with you. I'm feeling spirited, positively spirited about this episode this week. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Alex. And sometimes you just gotta see if the old boy will still squeal.
You know what? Absolutely.
Sometimes you just gotta check. We are going to be talking about Charley Crockett and his new album $1 a Day a little bit later in the episode, but you brought up something kind of earth-shattering before the show here that you wanted to talk about. So I'm going to ask you to elaborate and repeat once again what you told me for all the wonderful viewers out there.
Well, in a turn that makes it sound like something from like the plot of Superman, like Lex Luthor would do this. Apparently at some point, Donald Trump installed himself as the chairman, like the head bitch in charge of the Kennedy Center, and therefore the Kennedy Center honors. And we got George Strait and Sylvester Stallone and your headliners. We got Kiss getting the Kennedy Center, the highest American cultural honor in the land, shall now also go onto Kiss.
Yeah, this is, I know Kennedy Center, like at least musically, has sort of become like a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame kind of adjacent sort of thing. You saw bands like Led Zeppelin get honored there, Bruce Springsteen get honored there, many, Bob Dylan obviously get honored there. Like you saw many people kind of have gotten this honor over the years, and you'll see a lot of them also have been elected to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So a lot of it is it's not as much to do with like the lyrical content, although that does have a certain part of it. I think there's more weight on that than like kind of commercial success as far as like admittance to Kennedy Center. But it's not as if it's an impossible honor. It's a great honor for them to have, because generally the office of the presidency has been treated with a level of dignity that, kind of, it made it an honor to be involved with that, to be chosen for that. And you got to have a lot of artists, like perform in honor of you. I think Heart doing Stairway to Heaven is famous for one of the best covers of all time, because you got to see the members of Led Zeppelin sit there and watch them absolutely crush that song, crush it. You saw Eddie Vedder do Bruce Springsteen song, My City of Ruin. It really has been a kind of shining point in a lot of music artists' career. And thank God, finally we get Fish in there, or we get Kiss in there. Eventually, if there's anything worse, that what a Freudian slip that was. But thank God, finally, we get Kiss in there, like next to Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan. All these luminaries of music.
Finally, how many roads must a man walk down? Fuck that. We'll keep it as simple as lick it up. Oh, it's only right now.
Yeah, God.
And other such songs as Love Gun, which is definitely not about his.
I think the only good Kiss song is probably Detroit Rock City. That song kind of fucks. But like, they remember the disco era. Well, we don't remember it, but are you aware of the disco era? Like the I Was Made for Loving You?
Painfully, yeah.
And Kiss is more known for the band with the makeup on and the merch more than they have ever been known for the music, which was, you could love Kiss, like, fine. Say you love Kiss, fine. The music was not that great. Like, a lot of it was actively pretty bad, but then there was some that was just like pretty standard rock and roll radio fare for its time. You had a lot of bands like Cheap Trick, playing that kind of music. Like, Kiss was never metal. They were never really that hard rock. They had a like crazy image, but when you really listen to the songs and listen to the music, it's just your typical like kind of vulgar Aerosmith style lyrics, with kind of like power chords and noise, basically. Like Kiss is not like an American standard band unless you look at the reasons that they're famous, and it's a lot of the reasons why the new head of the Kennedy Center is famous. So I guess it makes a lot of sense why he might have a lot of respect for their game.
Yeah, and they get their face paint from the same guy too. So, it was a nice coming together of mutual interests. Kiss's music is unlistenable fucking garbage. It's unlistenable fucking garbage. I'm unwilling to be complimentary about them in any way other than it turned out to be marketing genius, because you never forget the 4 painted up freaks with the like, weird bloody tongues and they're screaming and the crazy hair and the armor. You never forget the freak show. And the music doesn't have to be that good as long as it's a spectacle. If it's a spectacle and they have like the briefest, like the smallest modicum of affinity for their art, they're in touch with the muse in any small sort of way. That's all it takes, because you got the goofy face paint and all that stuff. You walked so Guar could slaughter.
Yeah.
Except Guar actually makes good music, but it's just Kiss is unlistenable dog shit. And so it's like they're going in now. This is where my bias shows, because Grateful Dead got in last year. And is it hypocritical to be like, yeah, it's cool that they got in? I think they were of a cultural moment and their music doesn't suck. So yes, I love them. I think Grateful Dead says more about the history of this country than Kiss does.
Yeah, listen, I am no, like, I don't hate the Grateful Dead at all. I do not ever go out of my way to listen to the Grateful Dead. There's probably a handful of songs that when they come on, I know them well and I enjoy them. So I would say in general, I enjoy the Grateful Dead. I would not at all put them in the same category. And I think their importance to, maybe not American music, because it's just, I don't listen to that style of music or really any of their descendants. It's more like the culture of America from like the 60s on. The Grateful Dead had a lot to do with that, especially in the 60s and 70s. So yeah, there's no, and there was obviously commercialization of the Grateful Dead, but a lot of that happened outside of the Grateful Dead. That was just like the fans making t-shirts and stuff like that, and the bootleg albums and tapes and stuff like that. There was a whole ecosystem that was created really outside of anything that the band was doing. Everything with Kiss was driven by the band. Everything was monetized by the band. Everything was capitalized on by the band. Like, it was never about the music. With the Grateful Dead, it was about the music. That's the difference. Is like, you can feel how you feel about either band, but in no way, shape, or form could you make an argument that Kiss made good music.
Well, and I guess to me, to like put a point on the end of it, for me, the difference really lies in the fact that you talk about like people coming in and taping. The record companies with Grateful Dead were like, oh, it's going to hurt album sales if we get people in here and they're getting the album material and they're able to tape it. But the truth is that people weren't trying to like bootleg the album. Every single show for the Grateful Dead was different, and you never knew what they were going to do next. And these people travel around and they want to hear you do Althea 7 to 9 times. And very astutely, Mickey Hart has said this. One of the drummers has said this. He was like, we had 2 options. We could be cops, or we could just like let these people in. And we let them in. We didn't want to be cops. So they allowed and encouraged taping and trading. And it didn't cut into their bottom line at all, because they made so much fucking money off of people going to these shows, which was not their like genius intention. I think out of them saying, this has never been about being millionaires, so we're just going to like let people tape it. Jerry Garcia said, when I'm done with it, as far as I'm concerned, they can do whatever they want. Exactly. I played it. I did my thing. They can do whatever they want. And that is what is so cool about Grateful Dead, because it's disseminated amongst generations. You have like an uncle or somebody or an older cousin who introduces you to it through the tapes, and like That's how it used to spread. That's a cool cultural phenomenon. I'm not sure that Lick It Up constitutes a cultural moment, but considering the way things are going, maybe I'm wrong.
And I want to rock and roll all night and party every day. Like you're gonna burn yourself out.
Come on, man. You gotta
Like
get a mix screen in there
yeah,
somewhere.
I don't care how much money you got. And I can't I won't go as far as saying I hate Kiss's music, because there's a few of those songs, like as a novelty, I enjoy them. But do I think they belong? Like, they're a rock and roll Hall of Fame band because of the like commercial impact they had on the music industry.
Yeah, sure.
The Kennedy Center is supposed to be about like the art form, really, and about culture. And I guess it just is saying a lot about our culture that that's the band that's getting in there now.
Also, let's just TLDR. It's Donald Trump's idea of a really cool rock band. That tells you everything you need to know.
Well, they might be one of the few that still let him use their music.
Yeah, he did say he did not take any woke candidates into consideration.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
the pool thinned quite a bit after
that. Yeah, that's true. And I feel like George Strait probably doesn't even know where he is right now. So I think, but what do you say? What do you say, Alex? We talk about somebody that maybe will get himself into that Kennedy Center Ring of Honor, and that's Charley Crockett and his new album, $1 a Day. Now, this is the second album as part of his Sagebrush trilogy. And I got to say, this, along with the Turnpike Troubadours Price of Admission album, love the aesthetic. Love this like 70s, like kind of South Texas aesthetic. There's a diner here in Austin called the Toasty Badger, that the interior is designed exactly like this. It's that old like 70s diner. And like the menu looks like that. It's like that old kind of like light brown with the darker brown lettering. And it's like kind of a script, like sort of style of the font, and it's just like, it's like the Southern version of the Wayside, basically. It's fantastic. And this album made me feel like I was sitting in a place like that. So I had heard a little bit of Charley Crockett before this. In my opinion, I kind of put him in the same category, same level as like an Orville Peck, where it was somebody that like I kind of liked what I had heard, but didn't kind of like crack my rotation the same way that like a Sturgill or Coulter Wall or Tyler Childers or somebody like that has. And this album may change that, because what I heard on this was like such a cool classic country sound with some really like updated ways of kind of putting these songs together. Like there was a lot here. It got funky. It was very honky tonk in certain places, like great storytelling kind of all the way through. There was that real, like a nice twinge of like kind of the country style humor in a lot of these, and a lot of the ways that he said some things in this album. So overall, like, spoiler alert, I really enjoyed this album quite a bit.
I did too. I had only really heard a little bit of Charley Crockett that Tanner had sent me, and I believe friend of the show Brandon might have sent me one or two things. They've seen him live, and I have only heard those like 2 or 3 songs that they sent me, and liked what I heard. But I think one thing that is the strength of this album, but maybe was a barrier to me from going too much further with him, is it's very familiar music. It's very familiar. I would not say there is anything even close to the reinvention of the wheel here. I don't think that there is like one extra bell or whistle tacked onto this thing. It's very simple, straightforward, and it's not like a radical reinvention of a sound. It, like you said, that like South Texas kind of aesthetic to it, and you hear it in like the whine of the steel guitar and the very classic, like there's this kind of like peppy urgency, like a Western to some of these songs. There's like a 70s kind of crime, Tarantino-esque kind of thing, like the things that inspired Tarantino, the spaghetti Westerns from the 70s. There's like kind of a feel like that. it's got a very cinematic quality to it. So hearing songs in isolation was not a good representation of what listening to an album is,
Mm-mm.
because all these pieces were super duper cinematic. So it was a like really cool way to watch, like, or to kind of like visualize these different vignettes within it,
Mhm.
which makes it stand out. It makes all the difference.
Yeah, and I really, one thing I feel like he's very, very honest with himself. Like he represents his bravado as much as he represents his like vulnerability in a lot of these songs. You know, you have a song, um, "Woman in a Bar," that's just like kind of a cautionary, classic country cautionary tale. Um, you got to be careful what you start with a woman in a bar. Because it could turn into, you never know. You think it's just one night, it could be one moment that turns into a million more. And it's just that, like, it's that kind of like almost that pie-eyed country storytelling style that like really made me fall in love with the genre in general. Songs like Neon Moon, where it's just like it's a very elegant way to tell a very simple story. And I think that's what I love about most of the time when country like really nails it, like really nails its storytelling. It's things like the Ballad of Dude and Juanita, by Sturgill Simpson. Like that whole album, like this gave me very similar vibes to that. And I love how you said that it was cinematic, because that's exactly how it felt. I didn't have the word for it, that's exactly how it felt. Um, there's classic country songs like El Paso to Denver, like Lone Star. All Around Cowboy is a classic country, like twangy kind of song, but it's about a modern sort of story. And then Tennessee Quick Cash is one of those kind of down and dirty kind of songs. Like I feel like he inhabited so many different kind of characters in this that's part of what made it feel so cinematic. It felt like Bruce Springsteen at his best at certain points, where it's just like you were so lost in what's happening to these characters that you kind of almost forget that you're listening to an album.
Well, and what he's done with that, and what he's done here, is coined his own genre. And that's not like speculation. That's a thing he has talked about. Gulf and Western, blending country, blues, soul, R&B, Cajun, and Americana. And that sounds like a lot. That sounds like a whole lot of hat on a
Mm-hmm.
hat on a hat. But if you listen to this album, I think it is a thesis statement for this genre that he's created for the Gulf and Western genre. Again, the ongoing question on this show, does genre matter? How much does it matter? The history of genre. How do our brains categorize things and make sense of them and put them together? Great questions. All I know is this man intentionally invented a genre, curated his own, because he's not inventing these sounds. He's just curating them in an interesting way,
Mm-hmm.
and doing so through the length of a single album. And none of it sounds out of place. He's got this distinct sound. He's got this distinct delivery. It's highly accessible music. It's a slightly different flavor from here to there. And let it be said too that Shooter Jennings' smudgy fingerprints are all over this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it will not be denied in certain areas. You get into your Tennessee Quick Cash, Shooter Jennings is all over that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of, I mean, you could pick out like David Allen Coe. There was a lot of his influence on here. I think one of Charley Crockett's biggest strengths is, I don't know how much of the arranging he did of all of the music on this, or if he has like a studio band that kind of was helping him with that. But there was a lot of really nice touches all throughout that. But overall, his voice, I feel like, is a weapon. And I think the reason I kind of associated him a little bit with Orville Peck is they kind of occupy that same register. I think Charley Crockett's is a little bit more of that kind of like whiskey soaked. You're more likely to see like Orville Peck performing in like theaters and the Opry and stuff with his voice, and then you're more likely to see Charley Crockett playing at like bars along the strip in Nashville.
Can
Where
I
it's
say
more
something potentially controversial?
do it.
Not to totally derail you, but Orville Peck is too much of a character for me.
Okay.
Charley Crockett, there's a character, but Orville Peck, like, at a certain point, it becomes too much of a character for me. That's where I draw the distinction, is like Charley Crockett knows exactly where to go. He doesn't put on the mask. He knows exactly where the line is, and he rides it well. So it's not a character. It's
Okay.
just enough of a personality.
Okay. I can see that. More of a kind of like a shield. Like he's got a certain way he can act in public, and that way he controls the narrative.
I think he does a good, it's an apt like Johnny Cash lean in, because you hear a lot of Johnny Cash on this thing.
Yeah.
I think he does the same kind of like Johnny Cash personality lean in. You can argue, who's got the better like outlaw charisma, obviously, updated for today. But
Yeah.
I think it's like a similar kind of thing. It's yourself turned up to 11.
Yeah. And I think too, there's a lot of like kind of anger in this album. I think because he has been overlooked. Like he's released several albums at this point, and he's always been kind of on the fringes of really popular country artists. Like he never hit a slipstream like a Zach Bryan or like Sturgill has now, or like Tyler Childers did. He's never hit that like slipstream, and now there's a whole new generation of country artists coming up behind him. Guys like Zach Top and people like that. And I can understand how he can feel like maybe he's been like passed over a little bit. Like he never got his kind of moment in the sun to really make his statement on country music. And I think these albums, the Sagebrush like trilogy, is he's realized that he's got all the freedom in the world now. Like there's nobody, none of the labels like kind of expect anything out of him anymore. They feel like they've gotten everything out of him that they needed to. So it's like that's where he's reached a level of like, okay, well, I can just kind of do what I want then. And I think with these albums, that's what he's doing. And if he can create albums as good as this one, and he could find a way to do that consistently for a little while longer, I think you start putting him in the conversation with people like Tyler Childers and Sturgill, and even getting up to like Casey Musgraves level, when it comes to like country stars. I think if this level of songwriting is what he's capable of, and this was a 46-minute album, like that's no shorty. That's like a pretty beefy one compared to a lot that we do lately.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the reason that we talk about it, I think, nearly on every album that we review, is it can be a very good or very bad thing. If you notice it, it's probably a bad thing.
Right.
If you don't notice it, it's probably a very good thing. And I really didn't notice at all that I was getting done with this album because I was enjoying it so much.
Yeah. I mean, by the time I got to the end, I had one of those like, is that it kind of moments?
Mm-hmm.
It shit through a goose. It just keeps going. And I think that I really, really, really enjoyed the genre exploration. I really enjoyed the covers that were picked. I enjoyed the production choices. Like there was a lot to really, really like about this. I think the thing I admire the most in this context is how prolific he is as a songwriter. Mm-hmm. Because the last album came out like 6 months ago, and this is the second in a trilogy, and it seems like this dude just is constantly writing and coming up with new stuff. And I think that's awesome. And I think somewhere in there's bound to be whiffs, and then statistically there's bound to be gold. So just keep chucking it all out there, because nothing that I heard here was like wild misfires and then like runaway successes. I think the whole thing was right in the pocket, right in like for what it was trying to do. It absolutely went down the center and killed it, and nailed the assignment. It feels big when it needs to, and cinematic when it always feels cinematic, but it's big when it needs to be. It's like intimate when it needs to be. There's a great sense of pacing. There's a real dedication to the sound. It's incredibly well produced. There's kind of a lot to love about it. And the man is 41 and got like kind of a late-ish start on this, because he really kind of like traveled around busking for a long time. And then when he like dialed it in, he was like a little younger than we are. And so, 41 in your moments coming now, you got a lot of life ahead of you, man. You got a lot of time to just keep putting this stuff out there. So like you said, if he can remain consistent in this, forget this notion that some people get where they're like, well, in order to be an artist, you have to be good at everything within art. It's like, no, You might be the world's most talented disco artist. You're not going to make a good country album. And you might be the biggest hair metal frontman legend of all time. You can't sing opera. You don't have to be good at every single thing. You have to be excellent at what you do. And I think Charley Crockett is very, very excellent in delivering this cinematic soundtrack hit kind of country.
Yeah, this to me is exactly what a country album should be. You know, and I think if you are looking for an album that's going to make you hear like the sound of the door creaking on a 1981 Ford F100, you know, if you want an album that's going to make you remember what that sounds like, or what the leather seats smelled like in your grandparents' old sedan, you know, as you were driving down for another family vacation, you know, it's, to me, there's not a lot of albums we've done this year. There's a lot of excellent albums we've listened to, but there's not a lot of them that I feel like kind of put you somewhere and like took you to a place and like made you feel like you were sitting down and really taking something in. This album was excellent. I think I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to the first album in the Sagebrush trilogy, and I will certainly be back to listen to the third album in the trilogy when it comes out. So for me, this is a really hearty buy it.
Perhaps somewhat controversially, but I'll explain myself. I'm going to say stream it.
Oh, okay.
This is
waiting for the box set.
This is a run it down your throat, fucking hard nosed. Stream it, like highly, highly advocating for it. Not just, yeah, sure, if you want to. Mandate. Listen to this. Stream it. I stopped short at buy it simply because I don't think I was moved beyond words in the way that certain things have. Like I think a buy it, insofar as like my actual vinyl consumption habits are, has to be like, that's a special one. The quality here is like, it checks all these boxes for me. And this is a quality album and it checks a lot of boxes. It didn't give me an over the top emotional experience. It was one of those things where you're like, I appreciate this for how like excellent it is. It's like Spoon. We did the Spoon album. I'm like, it's excellent, but it's also not like, it's not stirring me. I'm recognizing elite game, but if nothing's stirring the way that like when I listen to Ween and I get that little like, whoa boner or like
the whoa boner,
Grateful Dead, whoa, like, you know, certain things give you that reaction. And I didn't have that like love reaction.
The whoa boner. That's
I didn't get the whoa boner.
So the whoa boner is what brings it from a stream it to a buy it.
Yeah.
Now we know what the official criteria is.
100%. In order to earn a whoa boner, you have to be able to go say that you went like, whoa, at least once. Yeah. We're ever listening to an album and I'm just like, whoa, like Jordy Gree, pretty immediately. Oh, the whoa boner.
All right. Well, so the whoa boner means you have a strong stream.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I have what I would call whoa chubs. I have a congratulatory halvesy, which is this was great. This was great. Phenomenal work. But we're stuck between here and there in terms of the fact that I didn't finish.
we were talking about album names. What did you say? Congratulatory halfsy?
Yeah, congratulatory halfsy. Listen, it's still good, man. Take the deal. Take the deal, Charley Crockett.
That was phenomenal. And if you folks would like to see all the other times that Alex has made me look like an idiot laughing on this podcast, he's about to tell you where you can find them all.
I'll show you where you can get a big whoa boner. It's at youtube.com/C/out on that line. Folks, we got whoa boners coming out of our ears over there, okay? You wouldn't believe the treasure trove that awaits you. We do reaction videos. We haven't for a while, but we do. And we do all kinds of other fun musical tidbits. We review podcasts. We take our deep dives with our good friend Tanner. How wonderful. Lots of content. Over 400 videos at this point on the channel. Hours, days of content. There's no more time to waste. So make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you click the little bell, which is going to notify you when something new is delivered onto the channel. And also click the little thumbs up. It's nice to have a little affirmation. But what is the most important thing is that you go into the comments and you make noise. I don't care what you do. And well, I do to a certain extent. I care what you do to the extent that I am liable. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And pretty much all I would do is swap brownie recipes and compliments. And that's what I would advise you to keep it to. So, you know what? Discover community in a way that you never have before. And in that moment, you'll understand when you get your first whoa boner, because you're part of something that's bigger than you. And that's a pretty big whoa. At youtube.com/C/out on that line.
That was, I feel like they're coming at the end of the episode, but it's like, I know you don't plan those in advance.
No.
Like, I know those are just off the hip. You're not even looking down the sites. No. It's fantastic work every week. And folks, make sure you go to that place he told you to go and do those things he told you to do. And we'll see you next time.